Hey ladies, it is so good to see you for another She. Can you believe it? This is our 4th online service. I just cannot believe that. And we have an amazing night, especially for you ladies. We have a guest speaker, Kaz, and she is going to be amazing. But I'm going to hand over now to Karis, who's going to lead us in worship. So why don't you stand? Why don't you join in the comfort of your home, and let's be blessed. Come on guys, let's worship. Let the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he is my song. 'Cause you are good, you're good. You're good, oh, so let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. 'Cause you are good, you're good. Oh, 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 you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. And you're never gonna let me down. And you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. Oh, you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. 'Cause you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're so good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, come on, last time. 'Cause you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, 'cause you are good, you're so good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, come on, isn't he good? He's so faithful, he's so kind, he's so just. And God, we just thank you for who you are tonight, Lord. Come on, why don't we prepare our hearts and get ready for the awesome Kaz, who's going to come and bring the word tonight.
So, hey, it is so good to be with you, Kaz, today. So grateful for you spending time with us. So thanks for being with us. Now, lots of the ladies won't know you. We've been friends for, well, just over a year, I think now. And ladies, to tell you she is the craziest person I've probably met is an understatement, really. But So we've known each other for just over a year, but obviously the ladies don't know you, Kaz. So come and explain a little bit about yourself, your family, and where you are at the moment.
Okay, so I don't think I'm that crazy. However, maybe I am. I don't know. So I'm Kaz, or Karen Gratton. I am based in Derby right now. So I'm married to Luke. We've been married for 19 years. We have 2 boys. So we have a Noah, and Noah is almost 13, and Eli is almost 10. And you may also hear my cat in the background. I also have a boy cat called Harry, who is 7 and equally requires as much attention as my children, apparently.
You're very outnumbered by the boys there, Kaz.
I know, and it's really weird because, you know, as like you dream in your younger years of what you're going to do and how you're going to be, and in my little mind I was going to, like, I don't know, I was definitely not going to marry somebody in the ministry, and I was going to have little girls and little princesses. And then I had my first son, Noah, and I was like, that's cool, okay. And then we were pregnant with Eli, and I even had people in church like prophesying I was having a girl. And then I went for my 20-week scan, and I knew I was having a boy because Eli was pointing out that he was a boy in no uncertain terms, which is classic Eli. Even now, like 10 years old, he's like, woohoo, I am alive. Like, Eli's like crazy one. And I still had people in church like saying, verily, verily, the Lord say unto thee. So yeah, yes, 2 boys, a boy cat. We had rabbits for a while, and they were both boys, Mikey and Sully.
So busy. So, and you are in Derby. What took you to Derby?
Well, some would say it's the centre of the universe. It's not. but we were actually here. So I came here to Derby as an 18-year-old on a year out to work with a small church, I was told at the time, and the church was about 300 people then. And a small church. And we were just the interns for this year, and we became the youth pastors, me and Luke, at the end of that year of that church. And worked and ended up on staff there for 12 years. And after 12 years, sensed it was time to move on. Bit of a transition, painful time, which I'll share more about in my preach with you. And just a different season of our life. And so we moved on. And then really since God called us to Prestatyn, having been out of church leadership for about 4 or 5 years, moved to Prestatyn, transitioned to church, and I led the church there for 4 years and was loving life in North Wales. Wales is a place to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. My kids were loving it. We had a beach, wonderful, wonderful growing church, really healthy environment. And in the middle of that, God said, go back the way you came, the landscape's changed. Although I come across, I can be quite confident, I really didn't feel that it was time to plant a church or pioneer a church. I was really quite nervous about that. As I said about girls, like about us, me having this girl, really sensed that God was asking me to do something else. And so kind of accepted about a year before we moved here that it was time to move back to Derby and to plant a church here in the heart of the city. So actually in a community in the city. So we came back to Derby and started going, what do we do for church, and what does church look like this time last year?
How's that been then? Because that was just prior to all the craziness of this year, I guess.
Well, I'd like to say that I trusted God 110%, and it's all been wonderful, and there's thousands been added to our number. So the Sunday we were due to launch in a community, we met for the first time with a group of people who we knew from the city, who were Christians. This time last year we started meeting, and we were gathering momentum and looking at what we were going to do to launch. And I really sensed that around just before Easter was going to be our launch. We're going to have a few bit of pre-launchy stuff, using the technical terms. And then in January, I fell down the stairs and broke my coccyx. And so that kind of knocked everything back. And I was like, okay, God. So I lay on my back. I lay on my stomach, kind of on my side for 2 weeks. And I was like, God, you're in this, it's going to be fine. And I got the all clear to kind of move about a bit more, and life was getting normal for me around the 12th of March, just as the rest of the world was winding down. And so then realised that this launch that was going to happen at the end of March wasn't going to launch, and maybe me falling down the stairs whilst babysitting, rock and roll my life first. I'd like to say I was doing something exciting. I wasn't. I was babysitting for my friend's children and fell down the stairs and had to just go with it. And so went from a gathered group of 20 people to an online church, and within a week had to just smile and wave at a camera and learn to do that, and then have kind of walked with them through that journey, and now looking at what do we do from here, how do we, because COVID isn't going away anytime soon, how do we then do church, because God's clearly called us to this. But there has been a, like, probably say June, July, I was just like, okay, God, you called me back here, here's all the promises over my life, here's what you've said to me,
like, what's going on?
did I hear you wrong? And if I did, that worries me. But you called me here and you told me to plant church, and I've had all these confirmations, and like everything was incredible. Like God's hand was on so much. Even moving back here was in just the hand of God and everything. To then suddenly get a pause.
Yeah.
What? And then we realised that God's asked us to be the church in this season as well. And what does that mean? So just to be his hands and feet, and to love people, and to be real and be family. So yes, exciting and challenging.
And very different to what the plan was.
Yeah, and I'm a planner, and I thought that God might have got that, but clearly didn't get that memo. So after I've got over the control issues, and maybe suggested a few top tips to God, we decided that he knew best. And so now I'm just rolling with it again. But yeah, it's summer was interesting, just like, okay, God, we've been here a year.
Yeah.
And all these promises have been spoken over us, and we know that you've called us back to this place that we were once in. And we know you're not finished with us. What? So yeah.
So I mean, you know, there's probably a lot of people in that position now, I would imagine, with this kind of crazy COVID year of, you know, having things planned, maybe, you know, having dreams and aspirations that God has placed in their heart and that they haven't been able to do, and maybe in themselves are feeling really discouraged, and, you know, unfulfilled, and just kind of, you know, maybe not being where they feel God wants them to be because they've just not been able to because of COVID. I mean, what advice would you give to those? Because obviously, as you said, you run your own business as well, doing funerals. So that hasn't quite gone as smoothly as you wanted. The whole move and planting of the church hasn't quite gone to your plans and whatever. So what advice would you give if there was anybody else listening today that's kind of doesn't know where to go because just, you know, their plans have gone out the window because of this COVID? You know, how are you trusting in God in this?
Good question. So I think one of the things I come back to time and time again is what's in your hands. Use what's in your hands right now. What's in your hands? And for me, with funeral world, as I call it, I have like church world and funeral world, and they're kind of conjoining and gradually coming together. But funeral world is an interesting world. So I take funerals, I'm celebrant and minister, I think is what the official term. I just say officiant now because it can be anything. I really know that God's called me to pastor and lead people, and to speak life and bring people up, which is ironic in funeral world, speaking life, but like believe in people and seek justice and mercy and really defend the cause of the widow and the orphan. And I was seeing that from a church perspective. I always have done, very missional hearted. But God placed me in funeral world in COVID, and I deliberately now have chosen to use what's in my hands. So when I'm meeting with families, what's in my hands is I can show love and mercy. I can speak life in their dark situations. Was it my dream? Is it the church I see? Is it you know, us as a church impacting the community and seeing people's lives radically change? No, but is it the little by little, year on year, do and do? And is it making a difference to people's lives? Yes, it is. So I'd say use what's in your hands, but also accept that everything is ministry. Everything we do is ministry. And I think we think that I've got to be out there and I've got to be speaking and I've got to be, and that's ministry. But actually, right now for me, ministry sometimes is crawling next to my son and getting as close as I physically can to him, because he's in a scary time as well. And I might want to be out there as the preacher chick, or leading my church, or seeing thousands saved, or organising a social justice campaign, or getting really annoyed and angry and like got a real thing about justice and defending people's rights, where I see for what I see wrong. But actually, I can't. What I can do is make sure my kids are fed. What I can do is make sure that as a family, we're in a healthy place with God. And I know that from seasons I've gone through, which I'll speak on in a bit as well, God's always been faithful in that. And I think when you seek first the kingdom of God, and when you realise that he's ultimately in control, his ways are not our ways, his timing is never our timing. My timing is shocking compared to God's, I've discovered. I just give up and go, okay, God, you've got this, you've got this. I had a dream of going to Zambia. My heart was, I wanted to go to Zambia. And this was when I was 24. I saw a missions trip to Zambia. I had a heart for Zambia, wanted to go to Zambia, really inspired by David Livingstone. Got this real kind of sense of just something about Africa that pulled me there. Raised the funds, paid to go, went for my yellow fever injection. And when I went for my yellow fever injection, the question was asked, could you be pregnant? Well, I don't think I am. I've been married for 5-6 years at this point. Yeah, but I don't think I'm pregnant. I'm not planning on being pregnant. My doctor said, you should probably check. Well, okay, I'll check. I'll do a test, but I'm not pregnant. And discovered I was pregnant with Noah, which meant I physically couldn't go to Zambia because you need to have the yellow fever. And that then knocked me. And I was like, but God, I actually quit the job I was working to go to Zambia. And it was after I quit that then I was like, oh, why did you tell me now, God? Because I could have got that maternity pay and this is ridiculous. Yeah. Okay, God, don't know where that is. And then 2 years ago, I got the opportunity to take a team out to Zambia and preaching in a village in Zambia, which was very close to where I would have been 12 years earlier at the time. I realised that 12 years ago, the girl of 12 years ago could not have handled what we had to do. And the girl of 12 years ago wouldn't have driven across South Africa and wouldn't have handled the animals and the desert and the mud. And we were camping on this hotel malarkey. We were in open showers. And suddenly as the mother of boys, who is now, 2 kids down the track and had camped and had done life and messy stuff. 2 weeks in Zambia, not living on bananas. Yeah, we can do that. We can on random. And I think that's what I'd say to people is sometimes we think we're ready and then 12 years later we are ready. So keep hold of the visions and dreams, keep them there. Yeah. Because God knows when they're coming in. So it's that's where I would go and trust him in this season.
Cool. Good. Excellent. Well, ladies, Kaz is going to speak to us now. So let's just pray before she does. Is that okay, Kaz?
Yeah.
Cool. Father God, very much so. For Karen, we thank you for her family, and we just pray today blessing on everything she touches with work, with her church as well, Lord. We just pray blessing beyond anything she can ask or imagine, and we just pray now for the word that she's going to give, Lord. We thank you that your word is life. We thank you that your word is a lamp to our feet, and we're praying today that as Karen just kind of shares with us what's on her heart to share with us, that you will just touch every single word that comes from her lips. And today you will touch our hearts, give us ears to hear what you are going to say to us today. And we just know it's going to be challenging, encouraging, and such a blessing. God bless you, Karen.
Thank you.
We cannot wait to hear what God has put on your heart for us. Absolutely. Go and suck it to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care.
Well, good evening, Calon Church. It is great to be with you, and thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you. It has been great this past year to get to know Philip and Ruth. We popped in the summer whilst it was still legal to be in your part of Wales to say hi. We love the Morgan crew and what you're doing at Calon Church. Me and my youngest often watch Meet the Morgans. We quite like it. I think Eli thinks Fion's the best thing ever. But we just love the Morgans and love all that you're doing at Calon Church. So thank you. It is an absolute privilege to be with you. I know that Luke, my husband, has been and preached, and now you get to go the other one of the relationship. I'm not sure if I'm the funner one or I'm not sure. But hey, maybe you can work it out. He's definitely more points based. I'm more story based. So we'll see. But I want to speak to you about seeing the season through. So if you want to take notes, my thing would be see the season through. And at the moment, we're coming into autumn. My lovely autumn display behind me. This is in my front room. So I'm a little bit of I like my house to be set for the seasons. It sounds very American housewife, I know. But I just enjoy it. I just like it. So we have we have autumn cushions in our house. We have winter cushions and winter stuff. And winter candles, obviously. We have Yankee candles. We have Christmas stuff. We have spring. So our house gets covered in daffodils. I do a wreath from daffodils for the front door. I have little bulbs set, and then we also have like a summer thing where we just kind of chill out, and I have like candles for summer, and I even have cushions for summer. And yeah, so I am totally into my seasons. I love seasons. I love walking in the seasons. We don't live too far away from a lot of fields, so just watching the seasons change. And I've always been a little bit like that. I quite like the different seasons. If I had to say I had a favourite season, I'd say it's spring, partly because that's near my birthday, but also it just feels like it's full of hope and potential. But also, you understand seasons because if you've had your colours done, you know, at some point in your life, which I know quite a few people have, then you are a season, apparently colour-wise. So this is my season. I am summer, apparently. So yeah, so if you've had your colours done, you are a season, and you know what suits you and what doesn't. So I am summer. My husband is autumn. Most people thought I would be spring, but actually I'm not. I'm a summer. But so seasons are like part of our ordinary everyday life, aren't they? And we kind of get used to them. And we always get a bit confused. Oh, I did the other year when like Boxing Day, suddenly it's really warm, you've got your washing out. That shouldn't be happening. I peg my washing out in spring, and I know spring's coming. And then like last time you peg it out, it's normally kind of, you know, autumn time, isn't it? Like October. And you just think, I'm not going to do that for a while. When things don't come in season, it feels a bit weird. When you have fruit that bears fruit in the wrong season, it doesn't taste right. Like fruit in winter tastes really weird. And I want to speak a little bit about seeing the season through, because there is a season for everything. And so when as I mentioned before, I take funerals, which sounds quite depressing, actually is an incredible privilege, an incredible place to be as a follower of Jesus, an incredible place to bear witness and bring hope in real times of darkness. But one of the things I do is I often use in a committal, I would use these verses, Ecclesiastes, but I want to bring something else out of them this evening, as opposed to then going to press a button to close a curtain. But I want to bring this out. It says this: to everything there is a season, a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pick up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. There's a season for everything under heaven. You right now are in a season. Physically, we're coming into autumn, but you spiritually are in a season right now. And I've been around church a long time, and I've watched a lot of people go through a lot of seasons. And when we look in the Bible, we see loads of people going through the seasons. We see times when they're having an incredible time, and then times when they're having not such an incredible time. Joseph, incredible time. He gets his coat of many colours. He gets his incredible coat. And then he ends up down a cistern. And then he gets sold into slavery. Now, Joseph has a dream. And in that dream, his brothers are going to bow to him, and one day he's going to be superior to them. It is years later when that happens. And he has to go through some seasons, doesn't he? So Joseph, he's one of 12 brothers. For those of you who aren't familiar with the story, one of 12. He then is the popular, the favourite child, which his brothers obviously love, not. And they decide to get rid of him, and they sell him into slavery. He goes into someone's house. His wife takes quite a liking for him. He then does the right thing. Because he does the right thing, he ends up in prison. He's in prison and forgotten about for years. He really doesn't have a good run of it. And then he one day goes from prison to palace. And suddenly he's the prime minister. And suddenly summer comes, or autumn comes, and he's fruitful. And actually he helps the nation in a season of famine. He sees his seasons through. The dream is there. Years later, it comes true. There's a time for everything. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to dance and a time to mourn. A time to weep. A time to embrace. A time to let go. And I want to share for a few moments about a season of my life, winter. See, we had our first child, and we had a child that was amazing. He was so easy that we thought we'd have another one because we'd clearly mastered parenting. And so then we went on to have our second child. And around the time I fell pregnant with our second child, my season changed. I loved having my firstborn. I was back at work, involved in church ministry, youth pastoring, 6 months after I had my Noah. I preached after having Noah. About 4 weeks after having my Noah, I was there in the house of God. I had my Noah one Sunday. The following Sunday, the first place he was going to was church. He had to be in church. That was my passion. And then I fell pregnant with Eli. And I was ill through my pregnancy, ended up in hospital in my pregnancy, ended up on bed rest in my pregnancy. It started snowing on the 25th of November, which was my son's birthday. So when Noah was 3, it started snowing. And there was still snow on the ground on the 23rd, 24th of January, which is when I came out of hospital having had my Eli. You name it, it happened whilst I was pregnant with Eli. Me and Noah were in a little bit of a car crash. I was on bed rest, Noah got chicken pox. It just was a nightmare time. And just really wearing. And I had probably a little bit of prenatal or perinatal or whatever depression. So before you have a baby. And then really it hit me after I had Eli. And I remember singing, because it was my way of getting through childbirth, singing worship songs. Our God reigns, his love will never fail me. Our God reigns, he was ruler over all. And it's a life church song. In all my life, in every season, I'll sing that he's my God, you know. No God is greater, no God is higher. Our God reigns, his love will never fail me. And then the other one was, it talks about every heartache here. There was this whole thing of me declaring, and I was declaring, and I was in labour with Eli, and Eli arrived absolutely fine, but then I got really ill, ended up in hospital. I chose to have my children at home, I should say. It was an intentional thing, a bit crazy, I know, but actually it was fine. And so I ended up in hospital quite poorly, had a few health issues. I lay in the bed, unable to sleep, having had Eli, just saying, God, I prayed and you didn't answer. And then the week after I was praying again, God, I prayed, you didn't answer. And I've been declaring as a Christian and saying, just pray, just ask, believe in faith, it's all going to be okay, it's all going to be okay. And here, why wasn't God answering me? I was a pastor of a church, why wasn't God answering the way I wanted him to? Why was God putting me through this? Why was God allowing these things to happen? Why did I have a child that didn't sleep, literally didn't sleep, just fed constantly for 18 months? Why at the same time as I was going through a physical challenge and actually beginning to challenge my identity and saying, I don't know if I'm called to this. As a family, we were going through stuff and we were realising that this church that we were supposed to, that God had called us to lead, that everyone believed we were the next people, we were going to transition this church. We realised that we couldn't, and my son wasn't even, Eli would have been probably not even 1 when we realised this. But in the middle of this, Hillsong released this song. So Nams After Eli's Born, 2011, they released this song and it says, I will see the season through, I'll fix my eyes on you. And it's as if God, I was driving back from taking my kids swimming, as if God said to me, will you see this season through? Will you actually see it through? Because I've got more for you and I've got a bigger dream for you, but I need you to see this season through. And I was like, yeah, I'll see it through. No idea what was happening. And then went to a conference a few weeks later and someone shared about getting into the boat with Jesus and getting to the other side. And I was like, I'll get in the boat. And I remember just saying those words and knowing, God, you're calling me to something else. And that began a 4-year winter. 4.5 years of earth stood hard as iron. Underneath, whilst what looked on the outside, I was falling apart, God was digging and mining, and he was finding the gold, and he was refining me in the winter. And gosh, was it painful. And gosh, did I cry, and I cry. And I didn't believe that God had called me anymore. And I didn't want to lead in church or preach or anything. And I tried everything. And I became, in that season, known as the temp. I did loads of temp jobs. Can you imagine when, like, you've been the pastor? Everyone knows your name of a large church in the city to, Kaz, and I'm just going to come and clean for you. Or I'm just your admin temp. I would go for jobs, be promised them and not get them. I would do things and people were like, wow, you're incredible, you should so, and then it wouldn't happen. And it was like I was in this winter. And I was in this winter for such a long time, 4.5 years. And I began to try and find God as I was folding my washing. I began to read more. I began to, as much as I was in winter and it felt like, God, you're somewhere, I'm going to find you. And I'm going to, I would have to lie on my kids' bedroom floor at night and just pray a blessing over them, even when I didn't feel like it. In that season, I went through PTSD from having had Eli. There was quite a trauma around that I didn't realise I had. I went through therapy for postnatal depression. I had this real control thing, an obsessive control thing that nobody realised because I could just put the face on and fake it. I could preach on a Sunday if someone wanted me to, but on a Monday I just was broken, just broken. And I was in this winter and I knew it was going to come to an end at some point, but God was calling me to see the season through. It was 4.5 years and moving 120 miles and crying as I drove there, with my son at my side, my now 7-year-old Noah, saying to me, can we get on and do what God's called us to now? Can we build church? Yeah, Noah, that's what we're going to do. And we went to Prestatyn and led a church for 4 years. And in the middle of this incredible, fruitful season in Prestatyn, God then said, and now I'm going to send you back to the city where you felt you would never return. What? I'm in summer now. I'm having a great time. Everyone thinks I'm fabulous here. I've got a green beetle. My life is incredible on the coast. My kids are incredible. This is an incredible life. My husband's doing his dream job. This is a brilliant life, God. And God said, let go of the leaves. It's time for the fruit. I don't want to. Because I really, really like spring and summer. And I don't much like the idea of having to bear fruit, because fruit hurts, doesn't it? We have to be fruitful. We have to work at it. And that's kind of where we're at right now here in Derby. We're in this season of going, God, you've called us here and we're fruitful, and it feels a little bit wintry, but I know that we're in a season where God's going to call us and we're being fruitful and we're just sowing and believing and sowing and believing and sowing and believing. And I'm just seeing my season of frustration of like, God, why haven't I got lots of people in church, like physical church? I'm just believing every time I go and take a service. I'm believing God and believing God and believing God. And I don't know where you're at, what season you're in. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mum, maybe you're sort of baby. Maybe you're in your senior years and you're like, I feel like it's passed me by. There's a woman in the Bible called Anna, and she prophesies over Jesus, and then my eyes have seen your glory in the temple. Anna is just like, she's a widowed and she's in the temple and God uses her. And so maybe you might think your dream isn't going to happen, but Anna's dream happens. Maybe like Naomi, like you just feel like everything's died around you. Do you know what? See the season through. Because through Naomi, through Ruth becomes a baby, and actually becomes the promise. It becomes the promise. Becomes the line of Jesus. Incredible. There's women all around the Bible as well as Joseph. There's women who see their season through, and because they see it through, God uses them for others. So where you are, what season you in? What's your dream? Can I encourage you, whatever your dream is, hold on, because like Joseph, see the season through, things happen, come out the other side. My dream was always to see Derby change for Jesus. From being 18, this has been my home. And I realised that although I'm not yet seeing the fullness of what I saw, I'm not yet seeing people saved and injustice and the voice in the city. I'm not yet seeing those voices on the walls. Here's what I am seeing. The fruit that will start to come. I'm believing for my funeral directors. You know what? When my church starts growing, when God starts using us as Festival Church Derby, honestly, we'll be so excited for funerals because they're all going to be there. And families will be there, and we will see different people from different parts of the community come to faith that perhaps I would never have seen before. And here's what else I've learned. I want to leave you with this. Whilst I was in hospital, having had my child, fighting for my life, having had a blood transfusion, and fighting for my life, God was doing stuff in me. The grit, the determination I had to have, because I had someone come to me, I don't even know it was a doctor or somebody, like a random time when I was half asleep, and said, hey, not entirely sure what's happened, but your lower back is slightly broke, my coccyx had cracked, and you're going to struggle. Your health, your fitness might struggle, and you just need to be gentle, look after yourself. I was like, okay. I don't think I even took it in. But it hit me and I was like, okay, I've got to start moving again. I've got to start walking again. And I knew that was for a purpose and didn't really know what. But really went through quite a tricky period, obviously with the postnatal depression as well as the traumatic stress disorder and various other fun health stuff, having had my son. Many a health issue, having had my youngest, incredible promise of God. And but whilst I was in hospital, God started doing something and speaking to me, and I knew I had to start walking in the pram and stuff. So I did. Years later, I was given the opportunity to run a half marathon with Compassion in Rwanda. And had I listened to what he said and just sat back, I wouldn't have been even in the remotest chance of running in Rwanda. But I did. And the opportunity to run in Rwanda with Compassion, with Muscafla, meant that what they were doing, they were raising funds for women and babies, especially around childbirth. It was all about like a childbirth centre. And that spoke to me, because had I been with Eli, having Eli in Rwanda, I would have most certainly died. And he possibly would have as well. And so I had a cause then. I'm all for causes. I'm like, me and Emily Pankhurst, one in this, like, tie myself to reins about anything. And I had a cause, so I ran for this cause, and it really hurt. But God started speaking to me whilst I was in Rwanda. And I was like, okay, God, I've done what you've asked me to do. I'm here, I'm running. But he started telling me about something. Like, God had a plan for my husband. He wanted to get my husband back out on the mission field. Now, my husband at the time worked for Empower, the energy supplier, and wasn't in mission. I did mission, he didn't. He stayed at home, he had the kids. I went home from that and I said, I really sense, you need to do this. So I paid the deposit for him to go the following year to Kenya and run a marathon, obviously, because he's a bloke and he has to do one better than me. And off he goes to Kenya. And whilst he's in Kenya, God speaks to him and gives him that heart for mission again. So you see the season through, and others can come into the season. You see your season through wherever you are right now, winter, spring, summer, I don't know. But other people, you will enable them to come through their season. I don't know where you're at. And I'm going to pray in a moment and believe God with you that your dream will come true, that whatever season you're in, you will realise that there is more and you will come through it, but you won't be fake strawberries. You'll be those who continue to flourish and continue to be who you are in God's kingdom. Let's pray. God, I want to thank you that whether you're in spring or summer, autumn or winter, God, you are faithful. God, and I want to thank you that you give us the grace for our seasons. God, I pray that wherever we're at tonight, God, that you would steady our feet. God, give us the grace to walk in the season we are in. God, and you would lead us and guide us into the next season, that we would lead and guide others as well. May we be women who are fruitful for you, not just pretty plants, but fruitful for you. We ask these things in your name and for your glory. Amen.
And I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between lifts. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. 'Cause there is no other name but the name that is Jesus. And he who was and still lives and will be through it all. No one made in the space between all these things unseen and this reckoning. 'Cause I know I will never be alone. 'Cause I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fire standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, I'll count the joy
taken from Daniel 3 and the story of the king putting the 3 Hebrew lads into the fire. He may have put 3 in, but when he looked into the fire, there was the 4th person standing there. And know today that in whatever storm you're in, whatever fire is burning around you, whatever season you're currently going through, just know today, be assured this very evening that God will always be with you, will always be by your side. He will never leave us. What a great promise to finish the last she of 2020. I can't believe we are finishing 2020 online, that I haven't been able to hug and kiss and say a big catch all year to you ladies, but hopefully the new year is coming and we'll be able to do that then. So for now, ladies, what can I say? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We will catch you again in the new year. Be blessed, be challenged, be encouraged, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you very, very soon. God bless you. Love you to bits.